All right. Happy Friday. Welcome to a webinar today on imposter syndrome. I am really excited about imposter syndrome because historically it has been a massive driver in my life. And I say historically because imposter syndrome is now like just a little ornament on the tree of my past. And it is not a frequent driver in my bus. And so I want to share the tools and the tips that have helped me to release imposter syndrome and to focus on other things. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to teach for about 15 minutes. And then while I'm doing that, please, if you have any questions, go to the bottom where it says Q&A, type your questions in there. If you have thoughts or comments that you want to share, I love having that interaction. So please put that there. And so then after I teach, I'll open to questions and start answering those. And if you would like to come on live and just raise your hand, there's also a button on the bottom you can use, and we can talk about how imposter syndrome is affecting your life personally, and we can address those challenges. And if you like what you're hearing, I encourage you to schedule a complimentary consultation where we can really talk about the solutions that life coaching can offer you in procrastination and imposter syndrome. So let's go. Imposter syndrome, as defined when I researched this, self-doubt of intellect, skills, or accomplishments among high-achieving individuals. Now, I want to just chuckle a little bit because the self-doubt absolutely always there, the intellect, the skills, accomplishments, but the high achieving individuals, I would say any of us can adopt imposter syndrome as part of our lives, whether we have these massive goals that we're working on, or whether we're just looking at our lives kind of going, I don't know, other people are doing it better. I think a lot of times just looking at our regular lives, we can also have that feeling of like, oh, I'm going to be found out that I'm not doing it well or doing it right. And so I'm going to focus on that doubt, that doubt of intellect, that doubt of skills, those accomplishments. When you're in imposter syndrome, when you're in it, in the throes of it, you're believing, I don't know enough. I don't know enough to pursue this goal or to offer what I have. You're believing I'm not good enough at it. And maybe you say yet, I'm not good enough yet. There'll be a time when I'm good enough at it that I can really go for it. But you're believing right now, I'm not good enough. You're believing, and this one's powerful, others are doing it better. They figured it out. So if I roll in trying to do this thing or just do my life or be successful at, I'm not going to be able to, because look at all these other people. They're just going to crush me because they're doing it better. So when you're thinking those things, it's this feeling of like dread. It's this feeling of heaviness. It's like trudging through mud. You've got this heavy burden of doubt that you're carrying. And it makes the movement just nearly impossible. Right. So when you think about the feeling that imposter syndrome gives, it's very stressful, right? If I'm going to be found out, that's stressful. Like, oh my gosh, my secrets will be known. My skeletons are out of the closet. I'm going to be exposed. I'm going to be vulnerable, and I will be open to criticism. Spoiler alert, you're open to criticism just by being alive. Some people make a sport of it, but they're always criticizing themselves equally as more than they're criticizing you. So that makes me chuckle every now and then, because I'm like, okay, well, whatever you're dishing out to me, you're giving yourself 8 times worse. And that's almost always true, right? The more self-critical, the more critical I feel of others, the more I'm criticizing myself internally. That's another subject. Maybe we'll go into that next week. So when you're feeling stress, because you're in that dread, you're in that imposter syndrome, you've got that fear rolling. The stress response in our bodies are fight, flight, or freeze. So when you're fighting yourself. You're fighting this idea that you can do it and it'll be okay. You're fighting this idea that you can do it imperfectly and that's actually acceptable, right? Or if you're flight, it's like you're quitting. You start something new, something gets challenging, you quit. You're not believing in yourself to be able to overcome the challenge, so you just toss in the towel. And then freeze. This is the one that feels most powerful to me in imposter syndrome, because you've got this heavy burden, you're trudging through the mud, and it's like, just stop. Like, I'd rather do nothing than trudge through heavy mud. Right? I mean, that's what my brain tells me. Like, just stop doing that, right? I'm just going to do nothing, and then I'm not vulnerable. Then my skin's not raw. I'm not exposed. That's better when you're in fear than exposing yourself. So what you don't get to believe when you're in imposter syndrome is that I can learn this. You don't get to believe that. You're not practicing that thought, right? That I can learn it. Not that I can do it, even. That'd be a fun thought, but probably not one that you would believe, but that I can learn it. You're not getting to believe that I'm practicing and getting better at this skill. Because the truth is, and I tell my son this all the time, we talk about baseball and that he doesn't have this skill, but he doesn't want to practice because he doesn't want to be exposed as someone not good at the skill of catching or throwing or batting. And so, but he avoids practice because it's uncomfortable, because he's not good at it. So he doesn't get better. So when you're in imposter syndrome, you're not believing that you can practice, that you are practicing, that you are getting better. You're not believing you're getting better because you're not practicing. You're freezing. You're not getting to believe that it doesn't matter what others are doing. You're on your own growth pattern. You're on your own growth chart. I want to tell a quick story. When my son was born, he was 3 weeks early and he was very tiny. And he was born early because he wasn't growing in the womb. So he had gone from the 40th percentile to the 2nd percentile for growth. And so the doctor was like, okay, we gotta get this guy out of here so we can get food into him. And so, he was born, and he was, for the first year of his life, he was in the 0 percentile. So they look at the growth chart and they look at all the babies and all the sizes, and they put your child on this chart and measured against all the babies, right? Well, he was measured against all the babies as like not on the chart. He was so small, he wasn't on the chart. And so I grappled with this whole first year. Oh my gosh, he's going to die. He's not growing. But then the doctor would always say, okay, he's 0 percentile still. But then she would show me his growth chart that he was growing on his own terms the whole year long. He didn't die. You all know I have a son. He's 8. He's healthy. He's thriving. He's amazing. And it was fine. He was on his growth chart. So I tell you that story because you're always on your own growth chart. No matter how much we love to compare ourselves to what other people are doing, and then you're like, oh, I'm an imposter. I'm going to be found out that I'm not as good as them. You're always on your own spectrum of a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, until all of a sudden you're like amazingly have moved a huge amount off your chart down your road of growth. So I really want to focus on that one, because comparison is such a powerful tool we use against ourselves, and it just doesn't have to be there. So what do? We've got all these thoughts that we're believing that feel terrible. We've got all these thoughts that we're not believing because we don't think they're accessible. So what do we do with this? So many times the first step is awareness. But this is not the first step of imposter syndrome, because you're already aware. That's the hell you're already living in, right? So awareness that I'm not moving along the chart I want to be moving, you're there. That's not the first step. So it's kind of fun. I chuckle about that, because we can also use awareness against ourselves. And I think with imposter syndrome, we do that a lot. So the first thing is giving up the idea that there's this perfect place where I'm 100% confident, that there's this amazing place when I know enough, when I'm better at, when I'm doing it, when I'm leading the pack, that I'm always going to be confident. It's not true. That little magic land does not exist. That land is, I'm going to get to the point where I can see that I'm not perfect, and I'm not using that as this beat down against myself. You're going to get to the point that you can see it's not perfect and it's totally fine. It's totally on track. You're totally on your way. So giving up that idea that there's a perfect place, this is like, for some of us, this is like someone lactose intolerant learning they can't eat cheese. You're like, how do I live my life not thinking that it's going to be better there when I'm confident, when I have all of this knowledge? How can I give up this idea that it's okay that I'm going to always have a little doubt? Doubt will always be in my backpack saying, do we know enough? I don't think we do. It's always going to be there, because surely you're always going to be able to learn more. So you have to look at that. Doubt will always be a part of it. It's okay. It's not wrong because you're doubting it. So what can you do when you're like, I don't know how to live a life where I think that I shouldn't be better than I am? And so you can ask yourself, what would it look like to feel doubt and go for it anyway? What would it look like to practice and improve the skill? How can I have so much fun learning this new skill? I'm failing and I'm learning. I'm failing and I'm growing. I'm failing and I'm winning, and I'm moving along that spectrum. I'm on my own growth chart. So asking yourself those questions can be really powerful, because you're asking yourself to go to a different place. When you tell yourself, I don't know enough, your brain stops there and says, I don't have to learn. But when you say, what would it look like to learn more? What would it look like to practice? What would it look like to have so much fun doing it? That's different. So then the next step too is adopting the idea that there are no wrong answers. So there's either something that you try and it works, or you try it and you learn something. Both of them are wins. So I'm either trying and winning, or immediately, or I'm trying and I'm learning, and by that learning, I'm winning. You're still going on the growth chart. So when you're believing that there are no wrong answers, you get that fear of doing it wrong just fizzles, right? It no longer has any steam. You have the freedom to mess it up. You have the freedom to have typos. You have the freedom to spill your soup on your shirt and still have something good to say, right? You have the freedom to do it a little bit messy, and you're still moving along the growth chart. Number 3, what do you do in this scenario is you allow the feeling of doubt. And you say, oh, this is uncomfortable. This makes sense that I'm doubting my skills because I see somebody else doing it better. I bet I can learn how to do it better. It makes sense that I'm feeling fear because I've never done this before. So of course it's uncomfortable. I can feel uncomfortable and keep going. I can feel fear and keep going. I can feel doubt. I can feel unsure. I can feel uncertain. I can feel ungrounded and still go. Anyway, I can still survive even though I'm uncomfortable, and that doesn't mean that my path is wrong. It just means it's part of the journey. I'm going to be uncomfortable even when I get there. I'll still have some discomfort. So number 1, what are we doing with this imposter syndrome? We are releasing the idea that there's this perfect place where I'm confident all the time. I'm never going to be confident all the time, and that does not mean I'm wrong. I'm asking myself, how can I have so much fun building my confidence and also acknowledging my doubt and my fear? I'm adopting the idea, number 2, that there are no wrong answers. I'm winning no matter what, as long as I'm moving. I'm moving and I'm learning. When I'm moving, I'm learning. When I'm not moving, I am in the worst case scenario. I'm just thinking up all the ways it's going to go wrong. And number 3, I'm allowing those uncomfortable feelings. I'm looking at them, and this is where the awareness comes in. I'm aware of those uncomfortable feelings. I'm saying, oh, you make sense, and I'm doing it anyway. So what questions do you have about imposter syndrome? Where are you seeing this in your life? And what, where do you see it most powerful? Share with me any questions you have about what I've just offered, or share with me anything that you are grappling with in general. So I see someone says, when I am afraid, I'm going to do it wrong. I just shut down. I don't know how to, I don't know how to take action. And it makes perfect sense, right? When you've told yourself it's whatever you do is going to be wrong. I'm afraid of doing it wrong. So let's just take the I'm afraid out. I'm doing it wrong. Or that possibility, doing it wrong. Right? If you're focusing on doing it wrong, you're going to find all the ways that you're doing it wrong. If your view is doing it wrong, then all you're going to see is, oh, I have evidence here, I have evidence here, I have evidence here. And then this person told me I'm doing it wrong too. Right? Then you're going to also ask for backup for the ways can you tell me, am I doing it wrong? Yes. So when you're focusing on only the doing it wrong, you're always going to find evidence for yourself that you are. And that's freezing. Of course it is, right? When you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it wrong, and I have all these reasons why I'm doing it wrong, then I don't want to try to do it right because I don't believe that I can. And I'm frozen. So asking yourself that question of what would it look like if I were doing it right? So you have to get your brain sort of to shift its focus. I got to look at something a little bit different than the possibility of always doing it wrong. What might it be like? And this is one of the things that is almost the hardest thing for us to do, is to consider the possibility that there is a way where we're like not in the grip of that dread. So giving yourself the idea, I'm going to ask the question, I'm going to throw it out there. What might it look like? Something might come back to you. Somebody says, I took a pickleball class and only went to one class. I really enjoyed it, but as you call it, the imposter syndrome sneaked in. I managed to have a reason each week and miss all of the lessons. It was definitely fear of failure. thank you for that, right? It's you go and it's like, oh my gosh, it's my first lesson. I don't know anything. And you're willing because it's your first lesson to not know anything. But then you get out there and they're like, okay, here's how you hit the ball. And they give you the opportunity to hit the ball. And you're like, oh yeah, I can't hit it, right? I can't. I'm frozen. And then you hit it wrong and then you beat yourself up. And then you try the new move and you're totally awkward at it and you beat yourself up. And so because, and tell me if this is what's happening for you, you're not giving yourself permission to be a beginner. And so when you aren't amazing at this new thing that of course you're not amazing at because you're brand new, how are you showing up for yourself? Is it with criticism that you're not doing it well? Or is it with like a little bit of mirth? Like, that sucked. I really whiffed that one, right? Or I missed that one completely. Like, it's just, can you be okay with sucking a little bit? And so then if you're not, then I've got this excuse and that excuse and this excuse and that excuse. Thank you so much for sharing that because it is so alive, right? It is that I'd rather not, I was totally frozen about it and missing out on wonderful friendships. Such a great part. All of the like, okay, I'm learning the skill of pickleball, but I'm also there with other people learning. I'm also building the skill of connecting with other people in discomfort, right? Because some of them probably feel terrible about what they don't know also, right? So I could have a connection there that I'm missing out on. I love that part of it. Thank you so much for sharing it. I'm missing out on something beautiful because I'm afraid to be less than perfect. Again, with the spoiler alert, you're never going to be perfect. You're not perfect today. You're not going to be perfect at the end of this series of lessons. You're not going to be perfect 5 years down the road. You're never going to be perfect. And I don't mean that you aren't beautiful and wonderful and skilled where you are right now. You're just never going to be perfect. So quit trying for it. Quit expecting that of yourself and being disappointed when you're not. That's the showing up for yourself. I'm not disappointed in myself because I sort of suck at pickleball when I've never played it before. Okay, so the next person says, I'm seeing it show up as I look to leave my company and move to the client side of my industry. Even though I'm doing well in my current position, I find myself doubting myself. Amazing, right? Because you don't know, right? I know a lot about where I sit right now. I know a lot about my perspective of the client side of it from where I sit right now. But I'm really terrified of what it's going to feel like to sit in that chair and have to create this whole new perspective. And so I'm going to take what the last person said of I'm missing out on the opportunity of friendships to say, okay, when I am not believing that I can, when I'm doubting myself in this new role, what am I missing out on in the next role? Right? When I'm not taking the action to leave and try this new role, what amazing perspective am I missing? And I'll say it like a walk in the woods, right? If I don't round that corner, I don't see the view of the sunset. If I don't climb the hill, I don't get to see that beautiful valley. So whatever your perspective is right now, you're sitting in your chair and you see all that you see. And it's amazing in so many ways, I'm sure. But when you sit in a different chair, you get to look on some of that amazing and you get to see all the other amazing too that you weren't able to see. So when you're doubting yourself, can you doubt yourself? Hey, you don't know this skill yet, or this skill yet, or this skill yet. I don't know. That's going to be hard. Yeah, it is. It's probably going to be challenging. I mean, let's not think that it's going to be easy. Even if it's simple, even if it's like, oh, just learn this. even if it's simple, it may not be easy to actually learn those things. So when you doubt yourself, are you doubting? And answer this question if you feel called to. Are you doubting that you can learn the new things? Or are you doubting something else, right? Tell me what it is. I find myself doubting yourself. Why? What are you doubting? I would love to know that. I think when as she's answering that, I think what happens so much in self-doubt is it's a really vague blanket that we just put all over ourselves, right? If I'm in the freezing cold of doubt, I just put that whole blanket over. I can't really see my legs. I can't really see my arms. I don't really know what position my knee is in. I just know I'm in this blanket of fear and doubt. And when I'm wearing it, I don't want to get out of the blanket. I don't want to go get a warm mug of tea also because I'm freezing cold, right? I just want to stay in because there's something about that blanket. There's a weight to it that grounds me a little bit. So that may be a little bit vague, but what I want to offer is sometimes our doubt is our security blanket. If our doubt is if we know, okay, what I know for sure is that I sort of doubt myself, right? I'm not even specific about what I'm doubting. I'm not specific. Well, I tried this one thing and it failed. So I doubt that I know that I'm good at this. We're not even doing that. We're just blanketing, I'm doubting. The reason our minds do that is to keep us safe. You've survived whatever you're doing now, you're surviving. And your brain is going to tell you, don't do anything different. You might die, but you're not going to die. You're just trying a new position, right? You're just trying a new perspective on life. You're not going to die. I mean, you might be having a car wreck or whatever, but that's not because you tried something new. So be specific about your doubt. What are you doubting? And then go get it. That becomes your to-do list. I'm doubting this. I'm doubting that. I'm doubting this. I'm doubting that. Okay, I got to go learn. Here's a person who's good at this and who can help me. Here's a course I can take and figure that out. So when you identify and you're specific about your doubts, you're specific about why you're an imposter, then you can make that your to-do list and just go knock it out. I say just. Simple, not easy. It takes a lot. And so it's the first step to going to get after it is identifying what do I need to be better at? What am I doubting? What can I learn specifically that will allow me to build my confidence? And when you're building confidence, I want to offer to you, it's not the skills that you're learning that give you the confidence. It's you showing up in your vulnerability, in your doubt, your skin's exposed, your weaknesses are there. That's when you build the confidence. You're building the skill of showing up for yourself. That's what gives you the power. That's what gives you the confidence. It's not the actual skills that you're learning, because you can go learn any skill. And we do, right? We learn in life offers us the opportunity for all sorts of skills. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I didn't scroll down enough. Shoot, she answered the question. Here we go. I'm doubting making decisions on the piece of industry that I've had little involvement in. So there it is, right? Because you're not in it, you don't have all the information of the decisions you're going to make yet. Because you're sitting here thinking about the worst case scenario. You're not thinking about the details of the decisions. How will I know I'm ready to make a decision? When I know this, I will know I'm ready. What are the actual factors that I'm weighing in making a decision? So because I've had little involvement, I've had little education, I've had little skill building in there. And so I'm like, I don't know. So I urge you in this case to identify, when will you know what you need to know? How will you know what you need to know to make your decision? What do you actually need in order to feel confident that you are weighing the decision valuably and confidently? You can still doubt that you know all the things you know, but when will you know that you know enough to make the decision? I hope that's helpful. And the pickleball person says, I'm feeling doubt. I'm feeling this doubt now, just talking about this. Yeah. And it's okay to feel it. What I urge you to do is not push that away. Don't hide from it, run from it, get angry about it. Hey, I feel doubt. Of course I do. I'm talking about all this uncomfortable stuff that makes perfect sense. I can survive doubt. I've survived it every time I've had it so far in my life. I love that idea. I've survived every tough emotion I've ever had. Thank you for these questions. Thank you for being here today. I love, love, love these webinars. I am moving the time to 12 p.m. Every Friday. So wherever you are in the world, adjust your time zone to 12 p.m. Eastern. And I can't wait till next week to have you again. And I encourage you, if you want to dig deeper into this subject or any subject where you're feeling these uncomfortable emotions, I'd love to do a consultation with you and see what it looks like for you. So enjoy your weekend, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you here next Friday at 12 Eastern. Thank you.